People usually shy away from talking about sex. Her Look talks to a sex therapist, and I asked her what women struggle with the most. Dr. Finn, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And we are going to talk about sex. And
Good.
People usually get so intimidated by this. And I posted on Facebook that I was talking to Dr. Finn about sex drive and one of the biggest struggles that women have. And I said, if you have any questions, feel free to post below. I didn't get a single response. And a couple of people sent me private messages. Oh my God, I can't believe you guys are talking about this. So does this happen a lot?
I think people just don't have the resources to know how to talk about it, or the skills to know how to talk about it, because no one teaches us how to talk about it. And when you think about growing up, if you may have had a conversation about sex, either maybe one conversation if you're lucky, it typically happens around the age between like 10 and 12, and it happens once. And the conversation is around reproduction, plumbing, getting your period, preventing pregnancy, preventing disease, but never around pleasure. So we get one conversation, and then we kind of go out into the world and have to find our own way with all of this information. The irony is that we're bombarded with sex in all areas, but it's that one area that we still want to keep people pretty ignorant in. So it's tough to navigate when you don't have the language, the vocabulary, and the confidence.
And one of the things that women struggle with the most
is sexual desire and arousal. And they'll contact me and say, I'm just not feeling it in my relationship or with myself. And it's important that we clarify that there's many folks who are choosing not to be in relationships, and they are still sexual people, and they still need a place to come and learn how to have a passionate relationship with themselves, how to feel good about their own bodies, and how to experience pleasure in their own private relationship with themselves. So it could be an individual, it also could be a couple. But for women in particular, for a number of reasons, desire and arousal can become very tricky. And especially over the long haul, in a relationship, it can be tough to keep things kind of hot and steamy.
What are some of the effects?
Some of the what?
Some of the effects, like in the relationship, for example, like some of the things that you see when they come to you.
Yeah, well, if you have a relationship where two people are saying, it's okay with me or with us that we're not having sex often, or that it's not satisfying, we're good, okay, then okay. But that's not the case typically. It's usually one person is pretty unhappy with where things are. What happens is there's distancing that occurs, there can be depression, there can be resentment, anger, and ultimately, unfortunately, cheating, infidelity. Sexual energy is not something that you can sweep under the rug, right? It's something that you need to, it's here for a reason. Right. And in a relationship, it's what sets your partner aside from being simply a roommate. And people get into relationships and have an expectation that there's going to be a sexual component in the relationship. Mm-hmm. And when that starts to slip away, it can create a ton of problems.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And when people come to you, what is the first step? It's something very difficult for people.
Yeah, it is very difficult. And I always say to my clients, I am so honored to hear anyone's story. And I always acknowledge the courage that it takes to come in and talk to me about, the most private, intimate part of their lives, and they don't really have a vocabulary for it. They don't know who I am, and so typically when a woman comes to me, she's usually referred to me by a gynecologist who she might have gone to first with some of her concerns. Then she'll come on in, and it's my job to make people feel pretty comfortable about talking about this stuff. But the one thing that people want most is hope. That this is something I can do. This is something that I can figure out with myself or with my partner. And the biggest lesson, I think, the biggest takeaway is that to have a sexual relationship with your partner demands intention and attention. And it's an active, participatory, push your sleeves up lifestyle. Just like the energy that you put into being physically healthy or spiritually healthy or socially engaged, you need to be thinking, how am I going to stay connected with myself and my partner? It doesn't have a life of its own. You need to participate in generating sexual energy and making that choice to make it a priority.
And especially if couples have been married for so long and then children, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
say, oh my God, it's a lost cause.
Yeah.
People say, oh my God, after you get married, it's, sex life is all downhill.
Yeah. Only if you let it be.
Right.
Only if you let it be. Again, I think it's important to understand it doesn't have a life of its own. But in the beginning of a relationship, for a lot of people, it felt like it did, because you first meet. And physiologically, you have serotonin kicking in, you have endorphins kicking in, so you have physiology working in your favor. And then you go to work and you're having sex and you're doing this and that and you have all kinds of energy. And then we go from that mode into maintenance mode in a relationship. And we start to put our priority in other places, taking care of the house, taking care of the bills, taking care of the kids, we're starting to not take care of ourselves maybe so much. And I do say to people, what did you wear on your first date? And what are you wearing now? Okay, and men and women, because it's important to cultivate that sensual energy in yourself by feeling sexy and feeling sensual, and then bringing it to the relationship. Women get hung up on their bodies way too much, and how can we not, with all of the messages that we get about
the pressure,
what's perfect, what's beautiful, how you need to look, and all of that. So we know from research that women settle for mediocre sex because of how we feel about our bodies. So we might not explore certain positions because, my breasts might hang over the side of the bed if I'm on this side, or my butt might look too huge if I'm on this side. So we stop ourselves from full expression because of how we feel about our bodies, which is really unfortunate.
And for people that are watching the show today and saying, oh my God, that so does not work, what are some of the tips, some things that when someone comes to you, you start off with?
Well, one of the first things I want to do is talk about the relationship, because my question is, are you feeling desire for anyone else other than your partner? Is it that you don't desire your partner and you're kind of desiring, maybe the UPS guy, right? So if
something to compare
something, and so that's going to tell me that there's a relationship issue, okay? And so I want to explore that, because if there's a relationship issue, if someone is unhappy in a relationship and the dynamic is dysfunctional, okay, that's where I need to start first before we can really go anywhere else, because people need to ask themselves, is this relationship viable? Am I happy? Am I feeling fulfilled? Am I inspired in this? There's the scary part, because once you start asking yourselves those questions, you don't know what you're going to figure out. And so for some people who might have an inkling or an intuition that, maybe I'm not so happy with this, they might not want to talk about it, because that's pretty scary. Because then what? I have to take apart a relationship, and I'm scared to do that. That's terrifying to me. I'm not ready for that, whatever it is. So I always need to figure out if the relationship is solid and healthy, or if there's some work we need to do there first to see if we can get things back on track.
And you've been doing this for how long?
About 28 years.
How did you get into it? Because I'm sure people are wondering and asking, why is she doing this?
Right. Well, I was fortunate enough way back in the day to have a position with Planned Parenthood as a sexual health educator. And I was able to go into all kinds of communities and populations and age groups and talk about sex and talk about, how to talk about sex. And then I decided to pursue a master's degree that had a specialization in sexuality, and then went on for my PhD and then my postdoc and some clinical work for sex therapy. So it's always been something I've been interested in, because it's intimately woven into who we are as people. And I think it's important to think of it as, overall health and wellness. Sexual health is overall health and wellness, and it's tied into your physical health and all of the other dimensions that you have. So for some people, when they come in, it can feel a little bit safer, because we can look at some other dimensions of your wellness to impact your sexual wellness. For example, if someone's not sleeping, they're not eating well, if they're stressed, if they're exhausted, if they're unhappy, those are all areas that we can look at to make some changes that will filter into your sexual energy. So there's all kinds of ways to go about it. It's definitely all connected. And unfortunately, it's been separated for too long. Sort of like all the other stuff is over here and sex is over here. But it's really who we are as men and women, how we express ourselves, how we relate to other people and to ourselves.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
joining us.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this edition of Her Look. Friend me on Facebook. I want to know what ticks you off and what makes you tick. Also, if you have any other questions or any suggestions you would like to see on Her Look, post it on my wall. Let's keep an open dialogue. Thanks for watching, and thank you, Kirby, for being the photographer. Have an awesome day. I'm Paula Gretzinger.
No, I did not part of it.
This sounds so corny, but look, came out pretty good. Okay. Good. Did I get you? That was refreshing.
Oh my god.
Okay.
No, what?
So, okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, awesome. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You can hear me? You can? Oh, sorry.
Is that how you enjoy the day? You're like,
No, I enjoyed the day like this. No. 3, 2, 1. Let's see what the expert says about that. Oh my god, I'm gonna fall in the water.